So there's been some controversy over the years, right? Over the creation of hip hop. A little while ago, Fat Joe caused some controversy when he said hip hop was created 50-50 by blacks and Puerto Ricans. From your memory, what did you remember seeing as far as like the audience at the park jams or just like the people that were a part of the creation at that time?
I just see mixed people. The first real experience, and I'm talking about when Sucker MCs first came out. I mean, I know you're going a little bit into, but that was the first time I went to the Roxy, right? And I saw all cultures. I seen Chinese, I seen Hispanics, I seen black, everything. I saw everything in there, and it was Africa Islam DJ. So I saw Rocksteady Crew in the back. Um, they were like breakdancing and like behind these curtains, kind of like practicing. You saw everything in there. So I don't know where. My experience has always been a mixed crowd.
Wow, so you saw not even just Latinos and blacks, but you saw even like Chinese and white people too that were there?
Yes, yes, yes. Yep. And this was a time where you're just not playing hip hop. You're playing hip hop. You're playing what they call punk rock, a new wave. You're playing everything, and people are dancing just the same. People are enjoying them. This is when you were able to play every single genre you could think of. It was a totally different time.
And so, because a lot of times
Yeah.
when they talk about as far as Latino contributions, right, Puerto Rican contributions to hip hop, um, it seems to get minimized in the eyes of a lot of Latinos. I interviewed MC Shan, and he said that, man, roll a clip.
We stole their style because the graffiti artists dressed like me and LL, right? The B-boys who were the Puerto Ricans dressed like the new generation of rap music. So they talking shit. Tell me shut the fuck up. Tell him Shan said shut the fuck up. Because he really don't know what he talking about. Because like he said, they were doing this, but guess what? We stole their style. That's how Puerto Ricans are part of what this hip hop thing is. Because rappers like myself and LL Cool J, how did the breakdancers dress? They dressed in them sweatsuits, them goddamn Pumas and them Adidas. Did they or did they not?
Yeah, they did.
Any rapper that came before Run DMC dressed in all that crazy ass Melly Mel and all that shit with the fucking, I love Mel and them, but we wasn't dressing like them niggas. We don't fucking wear them boots that Mel and them, all the fur fucking collars and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? All the spiky belts and all that wrist shit. We wasn't rocking with them like that. And so who do we rock with? We rock with the style that the B-boys was rocking with. That's where the Kangos came from. That's where the sweatsuits came from. That's where the Pumas and the Adidas with the fat laces came from. And so for somebody to try and separate the Puerto Rican and black aspect of hip-hop, you're wrong, son.
And we know that fashion is one of those interchangeable elements within hip hop. What do you think about that?
As far as the fashion, I mean, yeah, I mean, I think he's correct. I mean, everybody was dressing the same to be tell the truth. I mean, with the Kangos, um, whether they were writing, whether they were rapping or whatever it was, everybody in that culture was, the Playboy shoes and the Wallaby, everybody was kind of dressing the same, to be honest.
But did you see like the Puerto Ricans dominating those elements specifically more like the breakdancing and the graffiti more than the rapping and DJing?
Yeah, I think yes. Oh, yes, yes, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, to me, and again, it may be where you're where you're growing up in. So, Shan is, you're talking about Queensbridge, right? So I'm by Corona, East Elmhurst. I mean, that's a mixture. But honestly, I used to go to a place called USA Roller Rink, and people used to go right after the roller rink and go to the 7 train yards to do graffiti, right? So and everyone breakdancing there, they were people coming from the Bronx. So you had Rocksteady there as well, right? You had a few different crews, and they were mainly Hispanic. To be honest with you, that's who I would see more breakdancing was the Hispanics. So then, if you wanted to go, I mean, into the emceeing, then you're gonna see. Yeah, I saw it was more dominated by the blacks, right? But there was still a spring. You still had the Puerto Ricans and other Hispanics in that arena. And then I guess more of the breakdancing, you would, you kind of see the opposite.
Right.
And with the writing, honestly, I saw more Hispanics write.
And one thing that Shan was saying though is that like because hip hop comes from the Bronx and the Bronx is filled with so many Puerto Ricans, he doesn't see how you could dispute with Joe on that, because of there being so many Puerto Ricans there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, I mean, that goes back to my point is, I guess it's where you're coming up and where you're around most. So when I hear that argument is the dumbest argument I've ever heard. Like seriously, like it just New York alone. You have to know that it's the melting pot, right? And you have all cultures. So it'd be crazy to say, "Oh, this was created by this culture." When you have when you can go back and say, "Okay, this person sampled," whether it's "Walk This Way," right? And all these samples, where are they coming from? Right? Is you got rock bands, white rock bands, you got Latin music, you have all kind of music being
Mhm.
sampled. Isn't that part of the creation?
Right.
You're borrowing from different places. How can it just be one group of people?
I think
Never.
I think when people talk about this, I think it's kind of a semantics thing because are you talking about contributions over the years or are you talking about the very inception of hip hop? You know what I'm saying?
I'm talking about the very inception. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about. Yeah, I mean, you got to look at it as a whole. I look at things as a whole. I can't just point out, oh, well, they started this. Well, that's
Right.
an element. How about this element? How about, where does it come? So everything to me is connected. It's just all connected.
I think sometimes people just look
You
at
could,
it like, oh, when we say hip hop, we mean just rap. Like they're not thinking about
right,
all the other elements of hip hop that played in such a big
right.
part of the culture to get to where it is today.
Yes. No, no, no. I get it. I get it. And a lot of I don't know, to me, a lot of people that participate in that, I don't get involved in that argument. But I see a lot of people that get into that argument. They weren't there. They're younger, or just, just ignorant to the whole thing. It's like, come on, like you have to expand and say, hey, what makes up what makes this entire culture? Where does it stem from? So there's many moving parts. We can't focus in on one and expect to get the answers.
Yeah, and I have a brother that's from the Bronx, right? He's Puerto Rican, and he told me during that time a lot of Latinos were passing as black because them having some of more the Afro um, characteristics too. Do you
Hmm.
know if you witnessed that
Right.
as well as why that might be? Like people might think that the Puerto Rican contributions they don't acknowledge it as much.
Or as far as mistaking them for their
Right.
identity and saying, "Oh, well, yeah, no, well, you know what, man? I mean, uh, look at guys like uh like Rob. You know, he's Colombian, right? So so I went to school with his brother. They're Colombian. They you could easily mistake them for black, right? So then you're thinking, oh, this great DJ, um, is black. No, this Hispanic. And then you go back, to in time, and you think of Mean Machine, right? Their record came out on
Right.
Sugar Hill, correct? You know, okay, so we're going back to that, and it's like, you start looking at them, and like you said, you're gonna mistake them for thinking, oh, it's a black thing. No, it's not. And you have a lot of what they call Afro
Hmm.
Latino, right? You have a lot of that, and so they're mistaken. That identity is mistaken. But again, I think is the silliest argument, and I honestly, this is the most I've ever spoken about it. Um, just because I just think I just think it's dumb. And like honestly, I think it's the worst argument, and it's people, and it's mostly a lot of times spoken about like people that never even contributed to
I
anything.
think it's the internet a lot too, though. You know what I mean? You're talking about people that are born
Yeah,
in
no,
the
yeah,
last
yeah,
20
no,
years
right,
or something, like, that just feel.
right, and that's why I
Yeah.
say they weren't around. They weren't around. Like when I see profile pictures, unless it's a fake profile picture, when I see profile pictures and somebody commented, and I forgot where I saw it, but I'm looking at the picture. I was like, why are you even bothering? This guy looks like he's, you know, maybe in his early 30s, late 20s, maybe. I don't know. But I'm like, why even bother with this guy? He wasn't around. He wasn't around. All he has is word of mouth. It's tough to, the culture has changed over time, right? Every time, like anything else, some things stays the same, but other things change, right? So if you're not there from the beginning, I've seen it. I've seen it. A lot of times, even when Raucus had when they would put out, and I forget the name. If you remember, please refresh my memory. Remember when Raucus put out um a few old, it was like old records, and then they had some literature on it. I think Sasha Jenkins was one of the writers for it. Do you remember that?
I can't remember off the top of my head right now. No.
Yeah, so they put something out, and I was reading through it, and I was speaking to Mike Haran, and Mike was like, um, I told him, I said, he's incorrect here. I forgot what it was, but I told him he's like, no, listen, he'll, he doesn't think he's 100% correct. He'll take the argument from somebody like you that was around and can correct him. He's not doing it like, hey, this is what it is, and uh, I stand on this, and this is 100% truth. He was like, he'll take that anything is arguable.
Right.
So people like that I respect,
Hmm.
right? You know, so like I was around, I could tell you, hey, no, this doesn't sound right, at least from my eyes and what I've seen. It went a little differently.